Okay, so this is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching. What I'm explaining here is, so this is a coaching session for the room members. And what I am trying to demonstrate, I'm going to have to stretch this down just a little bit more, is, there we go. Okay, what I'm trying to demonstrate is what happened yesterday when we got into this anomaly, right? So what you had is a volume build here, right? You had an anomaly here and you had a volume point of control from 10.4, right? You had the prior day's high, you had single print pricing. So the reality is everything from, I would have said from here up to the next anomaly, which would have been here, those were all fair hunting grounds. So that covers a lot of territory. It covers basically 29.16 all the way up to 29.28, right? Okay, so then you ask, well, what does the reversal look like, right? So what that reversal looks like, okay, so this is that area. This starts at 29.16 over here, right? So pay no attention to this. This is the anomaly, the high and low from yesterday. We're just simply looking at this for today, excuse me. This is the anomaly from yesterday. So we're looking for a couple things. A, you'll notice that they just missed the anomaly right here. Now, this is a big deal, actually, because a lot of times when you just missed an anomaly, right, so we want to go all the way through process on this. When you just missed an anomaly, a lot of times you can have a big roll down from that, and it just missed by a few ticks, right? But then the next thing that's in our safety bag is we're looking for the fractal over here, right? So what we had to do is clear underneath these points in order to get set up. Plus we're looking for, so look what we're looking for. We want to get underneath this wave. So from here, so we had a couple requirements. We had to get underneath this wave and we had to get underneath these fractals. And you'll notice that this turned out to be the biggest wave on top. And so if you draw a line and you go through it logically, right? You draw a line over here. Look at so see the first time we tag that into that, we bounce. But if you come a little bit further, they close underneath, backside test, and see ya. Now that was Asia, that was on news, but the computer still followed process, right? So next, right? So you don't get set up because you have to get underneath the wave. You have to get beyond the fractals. So this is hard when you're thinking about it and you're trading in real time. You're like, oh, that's a potential setup. Had the fractal on top, we had the fractals down here, but you had to get underneath the wave. Now, we don't do that. We come up, you'll notice we get above the fractal, we backside test it, we push up into the anomaly. Now, if you are trading, right, you kind of have to go, oh, this anomaly is a good place to initiate a trade. This is a viable strategy. You can just simply short the anomaly with a 2 or 3 point stop behind the back of the anomaly, and obviously that worked without question. But what we're trying to do is pinpoint that trade even further so that's about a 60% win rate, right? So if you're not trading overly leveraged, sometimes it goes to 70 or 75, but it floats between 60 and 75% simply shorting that location, right? So then if we take in and we put in our additional elements, up. Now notice, this right here, that is your last wave up. It's tiny, but it is your last wave up, right? And you will notice that we got underneath that wave. So there's another clue. We get underneath, went to the anomaly, we traded a little bit above it, we got back underneath it, and most importantly, we traded underneath the last fractal to the downside while the market was going up, and then we came back and backside tested it. Your stop goes 1 point behind here, okay? The next piece that you're looking at is, is you want to take the last top two fractals. So see this fractal right here? You want them a little bit lower. So this fractal here and this fractal here. See, so I'm going to change the colors of those so it's easy to see. Make them purple. This fractal and this fractal. Why am I not choosing this fractal? Technically you could, but you want a little bit of space. You don't want everything stacked on top of each other. You want to make sure you're actually stretching. So the fact that we got in, and if you look, more importantly, we get underneath this fractal right here. Let me color that purple as well so you can see it. Okay. So see that? So we did three things there. We got underneath our last fractal pointing to the downside while we were pushing up. We got underneath our last wave to the upside, right? And what you would have said here is I'm going to have to beat this wave to truly break lower. So this is the starting point. This is where the bigger break will come from. We'll be breaking the breaking of this wave right here, okay? So you come in, you squeeze underneath, you come do a backside test. Notice that the only thing we're missing right here is getting the shift down. We get it right over here. Notice that once we get that shift down, if you'll notice the next qualities we push out, once we get the computer to identify the shift, right? Notice that we never get above the fractal associated with the shift, right? You can simply, once you get that fractal shift, keep your even if you didn't get any of this for the backside test, you simply could have shorted this fractal shift and put a stop right on top. Doesn't mean that you've got it nailed, but it increases your odds significantly, right? Now we come to the bottom of that wave. So that was here. This is the top. They responded off the top. They try to hold it. They don't hold it. They come to the bottom. They did respond off of that. You now have a head and shoulders, right? So I'm adding pieces as I'm going along. It's either this, which I prefer. I think this is all part of the head right there, right? So it's really this over here. So if you notice, they'll come down, and then we get additional clues. Notice that we then get the biggest push up. So see how this is the biggest push, and it was still the biggest push cumulatively because the delta in the wave total was the highest. But this had the most sustained. This is the biggest push, almost equal in delta, but it was sustained. They put up quite a big effort right here at the close, right? And what you'll notice, what was interesting about that was, that goes from here to here. Now, realize, if you were trading, right, if you took this shift down, I want to trace this for you so you understand two things. If you just shorted the yellow area, this is the anomaly right here. If you just shorted this blindly, or you started a position there with a stop behind, and you didn't use anything else, let's say you entered the front, that was a 29.25 before the close, you extended down to 29.15. That's 10 points from the front of that zone. Okay, $500 a contract. From this shift down with a stop behind, so that if you entered upon the close of this, that's an entry of 29.2150, and the best you could have gotten before the close would have been a 29.17. That's still, right? That's still almost 5 points, right? Upon that entry. Either way, no matter how you looked at it, this is, if you were given enough time to let this trade play out, what told you that you had a good chance of rolling lower was getting underneath what I consider the last two fractals off to the left, plus getting underneath the last wave. And then the last piece was getting the biggest push to the downside off the very high, right? And then the other thing that told you that we could roll lower, all right, I want to show you this. See how you got this off this biggest push, then followed a wave 1, wave 2 combo right here? See that? So there's patterns within the waves, right? Wave 1, wave 2. Notice that we never get above wave 1, right? This is wave 1, this is wave 2. That wave 1, wave 2 tells you that you're about to get potentially a huge extension to the downside, right? Doesn't happen every time, but it happens a lot of times. And it actually set up this move. I actually would have said, hey, we have a good chance of rolling to the downside here. Now, the other part of it's going to be to say, well, Simon, didn't we get a wave 1, wave 2 over here? You did, but you never traded above wave 1 with wave 2, right? So in this case, you trade down, and then you actually traded lower. If you look here, this is challenging because of the time the news hit, but that is wave 1. This is wave 2. I stand corrected. They did just barely trade above. They did the same way over here. The trick there was the time frame. And if you look at structure, one last piece, right? So I'm going to come back over here, right? So you see all those pieces combined together. The fractals, getting underneath your last fractal to the upside, getting underneath your wave, all that adds up into one piece to generate a profitable trade to where? To the bottom of that wave, because this wave, you know, on the way up is what you had to beat. Again, you'll notice, right, once you get under the wave, it's not that every time you get under the wave it will long liquidate, but it's got to get underneath that last biggest wave. It's got to get underneath the last wave up, and it's got to get underneath the last biggest wave in order to get the long liquidation, right? In addition, if you'll look, as we were coming down, this was your low, this was your fractal. So you had to get above that fractal and push. So if you draw this and you go like this. Okay, so I want you to notice, here's the 100. We blast right through it. Remember, this is a really small draw. You're looking for extensions, and you're looking for extensions, and you're looking for reasons why it would exhaust into place. So notice at the 161, you get tired, right? They attempt to exhaust, and look what it's pushing towards. It's pushing towards getting to this anomaly because you have to keep under your core. Markets like to move anomaly to anomaly. So look how the trade pushed all the way up into the 261. So that means off your original move, getting above your last fractal on the downside, this extended over 200% from this low to this high where it exhausted. That would be a normal place to look. That should also line up when you come back and look at a bigger draw off the bottom, right? See how this is your bigger draw right here. There's no question that's your AB, right? So I should be able to draw back over here, excuse me. So I don't have to be any kind of rocket scientist. Again, I don't have to be any kind of rocket scientist to figure this part out. This part I can just look. That's clearly my AB off the bottom, which was all the way from the prior day's close into Asia and into the European session. You didn't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out. There's two key things here. There's off that bottom. This is your 50-60 retrace right here. So I'm going to highlight that. Notice that when we come into that 50-60, you have to use larger time frame locations and smaller time frame locations. Larger time frame locations tell you where less skilled day traders are looking for trading opportunities. You'll notice it comes right off the 50-60, right? You'll notice this 261 was what was lining up where that volume build was. You'll see that originally when we got the news in the middle of the night, it pushed to the 261, got underneath, came all the way back to retest it, right? This is came back to retest that anomaly during the US session, and then it followed all the processes from there. So this is the original 100 extension, rejects. From the 161, we get a pause. It doesn't clearly just simply doesn't reject, but it dances along that 161. It gives you again a target and an area, and then finally we make it to the 261, which is rare to get that big an extension in one straight move, but we got it there. And it extended underneath. There was actually, by my computer, shows an actual intra-session gap in the European session, so that's kind of wacky. And then we pushed back up towards that 261 during the US session, rejected, and all these pieces, this 261 matched up with this 261 over here from this little push off the bottom here, up here. Those two pieces, the larger move and the smaller move, matched. And then if you'll look on the way back, right, so I'm going to venture a guess. This is the 50-60 retrace of the bigger picture, that gray zone. So when we flip back to the other side, even in a news environment, you should have gotten an initial rejection out of there. Let's go see what happened. Okay, so see how, why did we reject over here? And that answer is very simple. When people bought here for the 50-60, they got smoked, right? That was someone just had people just leave resting orders in these areas, right? So when you come back the other way, comes to the 50-60, it gets rejection, small rejection. Why? You just had your biggest push after a huge push down off the bottom, right? Then it gets above. Notice when it backside test that area, it comes back in and presses. And notice this whole area is now your structure on top, which is where it's rejecting, right? And if you come back over here and look through how it trade out the rest of the day. Now remember, this 50-60 has already been tested. See how these guys are late? They're the same guys that are pulling this trade off are trying to pull this trade off, but it's no longer valid. You really have no one who's smoked anymore. Anyone who wanted to bailed right here. And this isn't your 50 retrace. Let me show you. Off the bottom, it shifted. So once you got this, that's over, right? So now people were doing this. People, computers, everybody, right? So that was the 50 retrace. Notice how it responded. See how it came to the 50 and they tried to hold it and it failed. They came to, if you look really carefully in there, see how the first time it came back, it had an initial rejection. Wasn't a big rejection because we were coming off the bottom. They came back in. They tried to break it a second time. They're still trying to hold that 50-60. You get above that 50-60. Remember, anytime you break a 62 retrace, right, from the trend down, right, anytime you break that 60, from the 50-60, anytime you flip it back the other way, this shift up right here behind that 62 retrace is what releases it back to the upside. You have a bunch of stragglers still thinking this is an important area. It's busted. And I want to show one other thing while we're going through this, right? Let's say you still thought this would have been an important area. You still had to get underneath your fractals, right? So you can use those fractals as your safety cushion. I want to show you this. If you use this as your safety cushion and you come up over here and you go, hey, I've at least got to get underneath this. Now there's nowhere to trap on the left. You'll notice over here. See how there's nowhere to trap here? Even though you get underneath and it does give a small extension, you need to trap off to the left. I want to show you how that plays out, right? If you look, see how you end up with essentially parallel fractals right through here, right? See that? If you just highlight the top of that, where those four are, kind of like that, right? So see how when they try above, okay, and what you end up with is they try to push above, and then you get this fractal shift down. Once they've tried above, and the important thing is the parallel fractals there. They try above, see how they get a positive bar above, then you get a fractal shift down right there, and that's what gives you the bigger, quicker roll to the downside. And that's a good roll, right? You take that fractal shift down, that's very detailed work, right? You take that fractal shift down, you've gotten underneath your last anomaly, they're coming up for a backside test, right? And within here, we are looking to see if we get a wave 1, wave 2, and we do. So, wave 1. Oh, I'm going to take it back. Wave 1. So notice wave 1 doesn't get underneath your last fractal. Here's wave 2. That was weird. So wave 1 does get you under wave 2. So now you have the potential, when you see that wave 1, wave 2, to know that you might get a larger extension to the downside. You still have to clear these fractals right here. Okay? Notice once you're underneath and you use your wave 1 as your stop, which puts your stop right here. Right? Now you can start plotting how you're going to enter that trade. But I want to go back to the analogy of using the guy who has $1 million but only trades one contract. What he sees is wave 1, wave 2, and I've gotten underneath my last push up, which is this right here. I've accomplished all three things, and I've gotten underneath my fractal right here, and he's probably going to target this backside test. He goes, I have one contract, my entry is 29.16, my stop is 29.23. I understand that that's 6 points, but remember, he's got $1 million in one contract on the line, right? So he's going to simply short there. He's going to go, oh, I shorted 29.16, there's 29.07, close enough for hand grenades on the biggest push down. I'll take that for my P&L, right? If you do that series of work over and over again, you will find that your trades have very high odds of winning. Now, was that clean or easy? No, but I can tell you this setup, almost just like this setup right over here, right? The only place you got smoked on that was in this news area. Excuse me, I meant to go back to yesterday. Right over here, this setup, same way that that set up. Oh, and one other piece. All right, if I come back over here and I look at this, and right up here, I'm going to erase all these lines again because I'm looking for both extension, exhaustion, and the structure setup, right? So if I just do this, right? Here's my 100. Here's my 161. I know once I get to that 161 or past that, now I'm like, hey, we're pretty extended, right? At the 100 and the 161, but we hit the 161 all the time, right? And it constantly provides areas of exhaustion, right? That is what I am looking for my trade. Wave 1, wave 2 down, underneath my last wave, the fractals, the whole package, and the shifts. And I'd like something off to my left. And you could have argued that this is what was off to your left, by the way. You could argue that that's what they were trying to sweep above, and that would be fine. It actually came in, backside tested, it swept above these, and as soon as it closed back in, you could have used the same argument that this is your left shoulder, this is your right shoulder, and it did work, right? Came in, 50-60 retrace, and pushed down. That structure is constantly there, and the reason why it's important is guys I speak to that are boom bust, they don't understand the larger structure of what they're trying to trade above or trade below. Just like at the bottom here, even though this went fast as lightning, if you look, I know when I'm coming up that I've got to clear this guy right there, right? And then I'm looking, that's my wave 1, that's my wave 2, right? I actually needed a wave 3 to get above it, right? And I had to get above this fractal. And then what did I have to do that was most important to take off? In order to take off, that's my last biggest push down. And I'm going to have to clear above that, push down, right? So this is my last push down, right actually here. So I'm going to spread that out. That's my last push down, right? So once I'm over here, I've accomplished 2 things. I've gotten a wave 1, I've gotten a wave 2, right? Here, I'll mark that off. Wave 1, wave 2, and I actually needed a wave 3 to get above. Okay, so I get my wave 1, wave 2, my wave 3 above. That holds. I've got to clear above this fractal. Mission accomplished, right here. We then come back to backside test it. Again, this is fast as lightning. I'm not pretending it wasn't, or that it was easy. It was Asia. But it does come back to perfectly backside test your wave 1. And you will often find that you get a big extension like that. And we extend up to the 161. And then we start that whole process over again. Okay? So for this morning, I'll show you the same process here with CL in just a second. Except I'm going to kill that. And I'm going to make, if I post this publicly, if you have any questions, you can email me at TRADENPERFROM, TRADEN, the letter N, perform@gmail.com. And thanks for joining us. It takes a little bit of work, but it actually all comes together properly when you put all the pieces there. So I'm going to go back here real quick. Let's kill this. It's 22 minutes, long enough.